Hello and welcome back. If you have not seen my community post from a few days ago, then I am sorry. I have some bad news for you. I will not be doing any scheduled streams this week. I had some scheduling stuff come up, and it's just going to be a busy week for me. I do plan to try to stream. It's just going to be kind of on a when am I available basis and when some time frees up for me. So I might still get around to doing some streams. And obviously, if there is the Sony State of Play at the end of the week, I'm going to try my hardest to stream my live reaction to that as we have for all the other events that Marathon possibly could have gotten announced at, which I'm hoping for the best, but preparing for nothing as we do here in the Marathon waiting room. But I wanted to, in lieu of giving you guys those streams, put maybe 2 to possibly 3. I don't know if I'm going to be able to put together 3 videos, but I wanted to put at least one additional video out this week to maybe hold you guys over till the next week when I should be able to come back to my regular streaming schedule of Mondays and Wednesdays. So I thought I would do something a little more casual, but just kind of share maybe some general thoughts to kind of explain who I am in terms of Marathon. Why am I so hyped? Why am I so excited for this game? Why have I, for the past year, been endlessly making videos about this game that has a trailer, a Vidoc, an ARG, and a developer update, no gameplay, and we haven't seen for almost 2 years now? Well, I seek to kind of explain that. And then obviously, if you've been around the channel for a longer amount of time, some of the things I touch on here might be a little redundant, as you probably know my goofiness and are familiar with maybe why I'm so excited for this thing. But I thought since the channel has received like quite a bit of new subscribers, which I'm very grateful for recently, I thought maybe, hey, maybe these people aren't as aware of why I'm so excited for this thing. So I just wanted to give you a little context here to why this whole crazy channel exists. And I think the place that I want to start at is Halo. Obviously, growing up, I say obviously, maybe just because of who I am, you can tell I was around video games a lot, played a lot of video games. My parents played video games. Obviously, they were kind of arcade people that transitioned to consoles in the 90s. The first kind of consoles I really remember spending a lot of time on would be like the PS1, playing like Gex. Was Soul Calibur the first Soul Calibur PS1? Maybe it was PS2, but PS1, PS2, and then the Xbox was kind of the first time when I really sat down and hunkered down on my own to dive into games. And so Halo 1 I played, but Halo 2 was really the big one for me in terms of me being old enough to kind of understand and want to put more time into it. I could not beat the campaign. I was too young to do that. The jackals were too much for me, even on the lower difficulties. One of my biggest Halo 2 memories, other than playing online multiplayer for the first time, which was just mind blowing. Back then to have that experience of these other characters running around in such a fully realized 3D world that honestly, even having played Halo 2 through the campaign last year, man, holds up like so well, even without the remake graphics or whatever they call it, that's in the Master Chief collection. But man, Halo 2 holds up so well. And so having that as a kid, especially coming from very little to I would say probably none. That was probably my first online game experience was crazy. And I've talked about it on stream before, but the multiplayer vibe I feel like was a little bit better back then. Obviously people were, trash talking and stuff like that and a little extreme, but I think generally it was so new, that everyone was kind of there to have a good time. There wasn't there wasn't a culture around sweating around these games and going crazy, and most of the trolling I felt like was pretty lighthearted. Maybe that was my child brain's understanding of it, but that was my understanding at the time. But I remember playing Halo 2 and obviously not being super great at it or understanding the nuance of the narrative. And I had an older cousin, an adult cousin, who had come over, and I was like, you gotta help me. You gotta help me get through the campaign. He definitely carried me through maybe 60% of it or 70% of it, helping me get through these harder bits. And then when he left, I was unable to continue forward. So, but Halo 2 was like a really foundational thing. And Halo as a series, obviously coming from Bungie, is something that I've kind of been tied up with in my friend groups, games that we played. Obviously Halo 3, huge, was probably like the primary one for me. And then tapering off probably around Reach in terms of like playing multiplayer and stuff. But Halo was such a huge deal, and Red versus Blue, kind of in terms of entertainment, I was kind of in that perfect age range to not only have the moment of like I'm on the family computer watching season 2 and 3 of Red versus Blue. I'm like, wow, this is so cool. They're doing machinima. And then I was kind of at the perfect age when they started doing the podcast, where I'm like, oh, these are adults saying some things that maybe I'm a little too young for, but I'm really enjoying and finding funny. And then Achievement Hunter and all that craziness. Which on a side note, Bungie. Rooster Teeth is coming back. Bernie Burns just bought that. So if you're also a fellow Rooster Teeth fan from way back when, that's pretty exciting. But obviously, I was kind of very much so ingrained in the world of Halo, wanting to be a Spartan, loving the ODSTs, playing through the games, were a big part of my childhood. And obviously, the multiplayer FPS experience around that is something that I kind of grew an infatuation for. That would obviously kind of continue into like Call of Duty 4, the first Modern Warfare, Black Ops, Modern Warfare 2. I probably fell off of the Call of Duties until the newest kind of Modern Warfare remake or reboot or whatever after Modern Warfare 2, but huge kind of influence on my childhood in terms of the games I wanted to play and the excitement around these FPS games and matching up with other people and trying to put together MLG clans with your friends on these really kind of rudimentary websites and systems where it was very hard to coordinate with other people was a huge part of my childhood. And obviously, kind of the intrigue and the a little bit of secretive nature of Bungie and that allure of such a large community. Engaging with this property that is super vast, opened my eyes to kind of how expansive sci-fi could be. Whereas, like, probably if you're coming at it from an adult, you're probably looking at things like, Dune or, Blade Runner, other science fiction kind of pillars and seeing, wow, they're translating some of these really cool sci-fi concepts into a video game format, where I had the opposite experience of, almost being introduced to a lot of science fiction concepts through the video game format and then coming back to these other versions of it, books and films and television that were probably more enjoyed by me as I got a little bit older, maybe early teens time frame. Simultaneous to kind of this happening, I'm also playing World of Warcraft and Gears of War, which were kind of like big deal games to me. I remember Gears of War, I would do pistols only on what's that map right next to the river? Somebody in here is going, oh yeah, I remember that, or they know the exact name. But pistols only if you want to join my clan and popping heads on that. Just kind of broadening my understanding of multiplayer experiences. And then World of Warcraft, another game that I want to say I probably played around 2007, 2008. I played before Burning Crusade came out, because I remember being really excited for the Burning Crusade expansion, although I don't know if in Classic WoW if I ever got my character past level 45, which was a really big deal to me. That felt like a huge accomplishment. But just to generally kind of paint this picture of like, these are the kind of multiplayer experiences that I'm having. And the things that I'm enjoying and taking from them is obviously getting to have these complex and vast experiences with your friends and sitting in a Xbox party chat and going through their Forge maps and playing, Fat Man custom games on Halo 3 or seeing, what everyone's put together. Like I said, running these kind of interesting matches with caveats on them inside of the Call of Duties and Gears games. And also around this time is when I would first get introduced to Marathon, which I've said this a few times. I first learned about Marathon as it was kind of like a middle school lunch table rumor of us talking about Halo, and we were playing Halo 3 a lot at the time, talking about the lore and the story and what does it mean and what's going to happen and all these things, and where does the chief, did we finish the fight truly, where's he going after that, when is he going to be woken, when will they need him? And I remember there was, I don't know who, I wish I could remember the exact name, but I remember these rumors, these rumblings of a secretive, very unknown series that Bungie had made before Halo, and that there was this guy, Durandal, and that's the AI that's actually controlling her. He's the big bad guy. He's somehow, enshrined into the Halo universe, but, not fully understanding even the historical context of Cortana or Durandal as the sword. So I had no like knowledge base to kind of tie these thoughts together, but these are just loose fragments of information. I'm like trying to parse through forums as a kid and understand what everyone's talking about. And I saw that Marathon 2 had come to the Xbox Live Arcade, and obviously after hearing about Durandal Marathon, seeing, oh my God, Bungie made this, that was my first Marathon game, was Marathon 2 on the Xbox Live Arcade, which I still prefer the Xbox assets when I go and play through Marathon 2. I don't know that they're truly better, but I think it's just a nostalgia thing for me, as that's kind of the first contact that I ever had with the series. And the horde mode style survival thing was a big thing as well, because that was another game that my young brain was too undeveloped, too smooth, which it might still be a little smooth, too complete. So that was a lot of fun as an introduction, just an experience to have, but not fully understanding the narrative. That wouldn't come till later on. And then kind of, as I grew more, in love with science fiction and video games, I kind of, like I said, expanded. Ender's Game, Blade Runner, Terminator, the Alien movies, Cowboy Bebop, Firefly, Doctor Who, a lot of you think 2010s nerd or geek stuff, stuff that would have been in these loot boxes or loot crate kind of things, or things that I grew kind of a pretty fond attachment for. And then as I became an adult, those things obviously continued to develop. But for me, I had kids at a very young age. I had kids when I was a teenager. In my late teens, I had a child. So I was a little bit kind of removed from the social aspect that I had previously enjoyed around games, as I, focused my early adulthood on, establishing my family and trying to figure out this thing that they call life, which I'm still obviously day by day trying to sort through. But my consumption of media and my desires for narrative obviously matured alongside all these things. So my love of fantasy and these kind of expansive worlds, that I was enjoying in WoW, kind of transitioned to From Software. And oh my gosh, when Dark Souls 3 came out, I believe that was 2016, it's wow, this is so interesting, compelling, and I'm terrible at it, and I would start this kind of, I guess, almost decade-long journey at this point to go through and understand those games and play, and just growing a fondness for a narrative that isn't kind of chewed up and spit into your mouth. Things that are a little more obscure, or open to interpretation, and kind of understanding the poetry of story that comes from not revealing everything up front. And then obviously contextually going back and looking at some of these things from my childhood, like Halo, and see oh wow, hey, that was there. That was that kind of aspect of these properties that I really enjoyed back then, that I couldn't put to words, I couldn't articulate or fully understand. And so kind of growing my appreciation of those things while simultaneously moving on and looking for different things. I would say in the world of multiplayer, I kind of went from really enjoying and liking this kind of match to match, team deathmatch, capture the flag, King of the Hill, these kind of styles of learn the maps and then learn what your character can do and try to be as effective as possible match to match kind of games, to wanting something that was more complex and dynamic. As a kid, I would opt for something like Borderlands, and then as I became an adult, I'm finding myself more intrigued with things like The Division, something, or Destiny. When the first Destiny had come out, I believe that was 2014, so my young adulthood. Kind of finding multiplayer experiences that have layers or different things that you can engage with. And obviously World of Warcraft, I feel like I played that very young, has that. But like I said, my interaction with it was I'm going quest to quest. I'm hitting the accept button. Maybe I'm reading a handful of the words and then completing a task, which obviously is how you can play these other games. But there's a little bit more kind of dynamic nature. Are you gathering resources? Are you building up your base? Are you upgrading your character? Those are things that I really didn't engage with in terms of enjoying the multiplayer component of that additional layer, other than just be good at the game, make sure you can hit your shots and kill people until I was a little bit older. And so this move away from kind of that simplistic match multiplayer in favor of this kind of new trend of larger PvP modes focused on dynamic encounters was very pivotal to kind of my gaming desires. The primary thing that I would say was the source of that would be DayZ. Playing the DayZ mod for, I believe it was Arma 2. The thing is, I never really played Arma. I have, as an adult, done a handful of Arma matches with friends who liked running like custom encounters and just playing standard Arma. But I basically got Arma 2 just for the DayZ mode, the DayZ mod. And just kind of seeing like, wow, this concept of like, this is a fully open world and you can explore all of these buildings. And it's just, the experience that you're having is based off what you're doing and how you choose to interact with the world, and kind of how the narrative of your story evolved, from your actions within the game. Are you going to walk down the road and encounter somebody and have a conversation with them? Or are you going to find a bicycle and get picked off by a sniper? Or, oh my God, this building's full of loot. It looks like someone left a bunch of stuff here or whatever. And I really kind of enjoyed these less scripted, less, clocked in and direct kind of multiplayer modes in favor of these kind of open to interpretation things. Obviously, that would kind of transition to like things like Project Zomboid or PUBG later down the road. But that was kind of my entry into my desire for these dynamic multiplayer experiences. I would say was DayZ. That was kind of the start of that. And then, like I said, I think the natural transition for me, although it was probably separated by a few years, and probably some things that I filled in, like in between probably being really heavy into DayZ. I probably played like a lot of single player stuff, like Fallout 4 was probably around this time. And like I said, like Dark Souls 3 maybe was around this time. Just trying to have experiences that were easier to kind of like pick up. All right, I got a few minutes to play. I'm busy, I'm trying to figure things out and playing through those. And then I think the next big kind of turning point for my desires and understanding of multiplayer and what I want to do would have been kind of like a combo between Rainbow Six, Siege, and PUBG. Siege came out, maybe it wasn't around the same time, but maybe the time that I started picking it up would have been around 2016, 2017. That could be incorrect, but in my head, I kind of combine that era into that. Which is obviously a much different game at launch and has developed a lot. But I like the idea that there was this is, kind of bringing both things. We're getting this very tight match-made mode where the rounds are very consistent, but the introduction of these abilities and how each class interacts with the world in a different way was really something I only experienced in Overwatch, which I played much more casually. But I spent a lot of time very early kind of seasons of Rainbow Six Siege, never doing anything competitively, but enjoying trying to learn these characters and how interesting each one of them interacted with the maps in a different way was. And then PUBG, obviously, I think was a phenomena for everybody almost. I get some people don't like the Battle Royale concept, but man, I really loved PUBG. Just the drop in, having seen Battle Royale, which is an excellent, I don't know if it's Japanese or Korean, but, foreign film, where these kids are kind of dropped into an island and they're have to compete. They're killing each other. Only, a handful or one of them makes it out alive. Really great movie. And so having, seen that many years prior, I believe to PUBG, when PUBG came out, I was like, wow, this is the game. This is the game that I want to play. You get this high stakes PvP experience. Your every match is different because everyone's going to different locations. The areas that you're going to be forced into, and you're never going to learn the whole map. So you kind of really have to think on your feet all the time. I really, really enjoyed it. Maybe stepping back just a little bit, another kind of big pivotal experience from my childhood that maybe shaped this desire for more open, creative approaches to multiplayer would be Minecraft. Minecraft was something that I got in the alpha. So I believe it was $20 and you bought it on, Minecraft for Notch's website. When it was just, you didn't have any food or anything. It was very limited in terms of what was in there. Although it does look pretty similar. I actually went back prior to filming this video or recording this audio, and I watched CNanner's first Minecraft video, because that was probably like my big introduction to that. As I saw him, that was like 14 years ago, maybe, or 15 years ago or something. And watching him like go, so this is Minecraft. It's pretty cool. Like it just generates and then you walk around and it's like, that obviously blew my mind. But I think that also is kind of one of these through threads of engaging with experiences that are much more dynamic. And it's built around the story that you create by the way that you engage with the world. And then PUBG, going to kind of stepping back over to the Battle Royale route obviously transitioned to Fortnite, which Fortnite, I was one of the people who bought Fortnite when it wasn't a battle royale, which I guess the battle royale portion was free, so can't even buy it. But I bought Fortnite, the game, like it was called Fortnite Save the World, I believe, and I bought it because I like zombies. I like zombie games. Or maybe State of Decay had come out by that point, which I had played a bunch of. So I bought Fortnite Save the World as this like, oh, hey, my friends and I can jump in here and you can build these little towers and it's almost like a tower defense kind of game is what I remember. And so I played that, and I want to say it was maybe like pretty shortly thereafter, and obviously we were all pretty like, this game's all right. We're going to keep playing it because we got it, my friend group at the time, we weren't like super sold on it. And then day one of them releasing their battle royale mode, which everyone was like, oh, they're just trying to copy PUBG. That's going to be stupid, going to be silly. That was at least, the sentiment in the group that I was playing, Fortnite Saves the World with. Like, how is this going to work, right? But day one of their alpha or beta, I forget what they called it initially, of their battle royale winner chicken dinner mode. I was in there, and I was like, wow, okay, wait, there is something here. And then this is another example. I get it now. Fortnite, I feel like, is kind of looked at like, oh, kids love this. Go listen to Juice World and Travis Scott and buy your Peter Griffin skims. But there was like a very interesting competitive feel to the game, in the sense that you had these different routes of skill to approach. Like if you were really competent at third-person shooters, you could, especially in the original one, win a match without building anything. And if you were very skilled at manipulating this building system, it would give you such an advantage, especially if you knew the place to go for the resources. So it was competitive and it was interesting, and the call outs were really cool. And, everybody had the azimuth on top of the screen, kind of, which I believe something PUBG had already implemented at that point. But it was another level that kind of made it a little more serious when juxtaposed next to the cartoony nature of Fortnite, especially, back then. And I just think that was like a very big moment. I mean, maybe that's silly to say because obviously everyone agrees that Fortnite was a big deal, I think. But it was a big moment for me because it was just another piece of broadening what a multiplayer experience is. The complexity of understanding the tools and resources you have available to you, loading into each match fresh every time, knowing where to loot or what types of things to look out for even if you didn't have the map knowledge, building your skill in combination with your knowledge, which allows you to be more successful match to match. These were all just rad, just great experiences. And like I said, just kind of shaped me to be in this mindset where my desires for a game is dynamic multiplayer experience, which weaves maybe a compelling narrative, like the things I've been enjoying as I've kind of grown more in love with sci-fi and fantasy, and like I said, things like the FromSoft games. That's what I want. I want something that doesn't hold your hand or give you all of the answers, either in the narrative or in the gameplay, that you can go and try out new things and figure out what's going to be best for you and your specific abilities, and kind of having the ability to create your own story every time you load into a match, and the dynamic nature of that is what compels me. So I think from the when the Marathon trailer released, it was like, oh wow, hey, this is interesting. It's going to be an extract shooter, which at that time I'd heard of things like Tarkov, but hadn't played them or had a lot of experience with extraction shooters outside of like DMZ. I think maybe I had played a few hours of Hunt at that point as well, but nothing seriously, or like it was a genre I was looking forward to. But just coming to that moment where it's like, wow, this is the most visually striking trailer. The audio behind it gets you so hyped, and oh my god, it's Bungie. It's these people who created these Halo games, which kind of was foundational in my love for gaming and narrative, and touches so many aspects of my life growing up and learning about science fiction and this whole genre and video games and all this stuff. So it was just such kind of like a gut punch, like, wow, there's so much here. And then that fed into me being like, well, I need to really dive into Marathon and playing through all the games to completion this time, and understanding they're there, and then really thinking about it, going, wow, this is so interesting to me. There's this world. These original games, are very fun to play. These are kind of like in my eyes, very like top tier boomer shooters, especially the ALF1 ports, and how they play today are very fun and floaty and interesting physics, and the design of the worlds is so compelling. With what they had and what they were able to produce, it's amazing for the time period, I think. Obviously, I wasn't playing the games at the time, so maybe I'm wrong, and maybe people who were there say, it was mediocre. But from my perspective, it's like there's not very many experiences from 1994 that I'm like have a desire to go back into and play the game. Even the things that are from that era, it's like maybe I have the desire to understand the narrative and the story and stuff, but I'm not necessarily super pumped to get back in there. Whereas Marathon, especially Marathon Infinity, I really am infatuated with Marathon Infinity and the gameplay and the level design. It's very cool and well put together. And so when I went back through and I played through all the ALF1 ports, I was like, wow, and the narrative is so deep. And then like everybody who becomes a Marathon fan, you get lost in the Marathon story page, which has been maintained by Hamish Sinclair since the 1995, maybe, I believe, since September of 95 or something like that. And obviously he's been there with, the other community of people who've been playing Marathon for the past 30 years, documenting everybody's theories and opinions and, what's going on? What is this whole thing really about? And trying to like understand every little piece of information. And then obviously the narrative written by Greg Kirkpatrick and Jason Jones is compelling, obviously, still, which is why I can make all these videos kind of dissecting different little parts of it and my thoughts and opinions and theories on it. So it's just kind of like this amazing package where Bungie was announcing something that I was profoundly interested in and I think looked really cool, and then delving deeper into the story and bigger narrative universe of Marathon unveiled something even deeper. And that was compounded by, oh my God, and there's this alternate reality game that was running simultaneous to the release of all the information, the announcement for the game. And now that's an additional layer of intrigue that I can dig into. And so I really spent that from May of 2023 when it was announced to January of 2024 last year, really just diving head first into Marathon and just scrolling endlessly through, like I said, these pages on the story page and using Carnamir's lore archive to look through all of the ARG information and reading what we had gotten from the ARG and rewatching the trailer and looking through the Vidoc and doing all this stuff and seeing what people were speculating on in the Reddit and stuff. Like I said, it just kind of it felt like all of these moments and experiences that I had had in video games and playing multiplayer games and the things I had talked about with my friends and the, narratives and science fiction that have really intrigued me were combined, into this perfect moment in time where this piece of media found me. And it probably found a lot of people. And I'm sure a lot of people probably resonate with this, especially if you're around my age, you're in your late 20s and you had similar experiences, or early 30s. Had similar experiences with Bungie games and Halo and all this stuff. I'm sure you feel very similarly in the sense that this could scratch an itch that's been growing for many years to, combine the allure of these worlds that Bungie has built in the past and have been building in the future with the dynamic nature of modern multiplayer experiences and what the technology that exists now can offer us in those realms. And so, it's just kind of this, like I said, this is a waterfall of stuff that kind of lined up perfectly and just made me very excited for it. And then, coming into the beginning of 2024, I had this YouTube channel that I, had wanted to do and more seriously for a while. And the channel had existed for 2 years prior to that, where I'd done a few different silly things, which if you want to scroll back on my videos and watch some of my older silly videos, they're something, right? Not super great, but I leave them up there. It's fun. It's all part of the story. And I thought, man, there's so many great videos about Marathon, but the stuff that like I personally was interested in seeing about or listening to just didn't exist like in the way that I wanted to listen to on YouTube. And so I thought, man, okay, well maybe I'll just do that. And obviously that has been a whole journey since then. So I think that pretty much summarizes how we got here, at least from the perspective of why is this lunatic making dozens of hours of content about this game that isn't out and why did he just yap for, I don't know, 30, 40 minutes about that? Just a general summary of kind of what what got us here. So maybe that makes sense. Maybe this illuminated some aspects about me or the channel. Um, I don't know, but I would love to hear your thoughts, maybe why you're excited for Marathon, your journey with video games and science fiction, what it has looked like in the comments. And if you want to have a deeper conversation about these things, do consider joining the Discord. We have a really, really cool community of people who are very kind, and we have very just creative and open space there where I feel like people share a lot of very interesting thoughts, ideas, art, all sorts of cool stuff. And I would love to hear everybody's, personal perspective on why they're excited for Marathon or not excited for Marathon, or what has their personal journey been with media and narratives and games and all this stuff, because it is always compelling to get a better understanding of the experience of your fellow man, because we're all living on this ball, flying through space, having a very unique, time. And it's cool to see, especially when we can all gather around and meet on something that we agree about, or at least have an understanding with each other. So definitely leave me a comment. Let me know what you thought. And yeah, guys, thanks for watching. You guys have a good one. Bye.